Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today I'm returning my Lenovo Legion GO. So let's get right into it. Now before you go and dislike the video and you leave a mean comment and you just leave the channel forever, let me explain myself a little better. First, I just want to get out of the way, the Lenovo GO is an amazing piece of hardware. Lenovo really went out of their way to really showcase what they can do with hardware and to try to get their own footing in the handheld gaming space. Because of the success of the Valve Steam Deck, all of the competitors have come out of the woodwork to make their own version of a portable handheld gaming system. However, where these companies seem to go wrong or miss the mark is that Valve has done an amazing job with their software to make a handheld gaming PC feel like a handheld console. What that means is most people, when they look at these commercials for these handheld gaming systems, if they're not really into the space or they don't know what they're getting themselves into, they may go and purchase one, turn it on, and be completely turned off that this is not a portable PlayStation 5 or a portable Xbox. This is a portable gaming PC. And if you've never been a part of the gaming PC world until now, this could be like whiplash for a lot of people, and I think that's where the biggest issue with Windows-based gaming consoles comes in. And the Legion GO sadly does not stay away from this. And what I mean by that, this is my very first Windows handheld gaming PC. I've never used anything like it before. It's got some amazing features that are on no other console on the market, including other popular Windows devices like the Asus ROG Ally, which I wish I could have gotten my hands on to do a hands-on test between that system and Lenovo GO, but sadly couldn't do that, and I didn't want to spend the money. And that's the main reason why I'm returning this one, is just because they're so dang expensive. I don't know about you guys, but $700 is a lot of money. And when you're putting that towards multiple handheld gaming systems that I'm only ever going to really use for videos and nothing really else, I don't see a reason to keep them around the house. Now, that being said, that's the reason I'm getting rid of the Lenovo GO, and I'm keeping the Steam Deck OLED. This was originally going to be a Steam Deck OLED versus the Legion GO video. I was going to be a complete direct comparison. But then I realized I've already kind of made that video, and it was with the Lenovo GO versus the Steam Deck, the original LCD Steam Deck, not the OLED that I have here now. But I realized, yes, the OLED has some advanced features compared to the original LCD Steam Deck. I've already done a full comparison on my channel if you want to go check that out, of the OLED versus the original. And I love both of them, by the way. I still think the original Steam Deck is an amazing buy and probably where most people should kind of gravitate to if this is their first handheld gaming experience in a PC form, because you can get them as low as like $300 if you get them used, and if you buy them brand new, $350 for the 64 gigabyte model now that the OLEDs have come out. So very cool to see that. That being said though, Steam Deck aside, I just felt like I didn't really need to make that video again, where now it's just some updates to the Steam Deck that make it a little better than the LCD version versus the Legion GO. And in the end, the Legion GO still probably would have came out on top in just terms of power and gaming ability. And now you're probably asking, well, then why are you getting rid of the Legion GO? Why would you not just get rid of the OLED? And this is where I just want to be honest with you guys on camera, and that's why I'm showing my face and not just my hands like I normally do. And that when it comes to the Legion GO, there is a lot of amazing things with this piece of tech. I think they've done some really cool things with it. I think the ideas are there, but the execution is just a little sloppy. Is that a deal breaker necessarily for most people? No. But for me it is, and that's just because I've had the luxury of testing both devices. Now, if I only bought the Legion GO, I never bought the Steam Deck, I probably wouldn't even be making this video. I would have been keeping it. That's because this is still an amazing device, and that's why anybody out there who's watching this video, if you have a Legion GO, if you've been wanting to buy it, I'm not trying to deter you from buying it. I'm not trying to say, go with the Steam Deck over the Legion GO. This is 100% just a personal thing, and I really think it's going to come down to that for most people. It's going to depend on who you are and what you're buying these devices for. So, let me give you my story, and I hope this will explain a little bit better. The reason I'm returning the Legion GO is because when I purchased a handheld gaming system, like the Steam Deck, Legion GO, ROG Ally, doesn't matter. The reason I'm buying these is because when I'm away from my home, or if I just want to lay in bed or lay on the couch, I'm away from my high-end gaming PC, I'm away from my PS5, I want to be able to play just random games that I normally probably would on my PC, just away from it. On top of that, I'm a keyboard and mouse enthusiast. I pretty much only play my games on keyboard and mouse unless it's a driving game or any game that I can use analogs and not feel like I'm at a disadvantage. So when it comes to first-person shooters and stuff like that, I'm never using a controller. I can't. I used to back in the day, but I can't now. So those games, I'm never even going to think of putting it on a handheld, and that goes for the Legion Go. I did install like Call of Duty and Valorant and a couple other games to test out the coolest feature of this device, which we'll get to in a minute. But I still was telling myself it feels more like a gimmick because I'm never going to actually use that on the go. I'm never going to because I just don't feel comfortable without my keyboard and mouse. So then I really sat down and I thought about it. The main reason I'm buying these devices or using this is for a portable handheld gaming system that I'm only going to be playing specific games that use analog controls. And then I thought about it some more, and I realized, well, if that's the case, I don't need all of the power in the world to run the biggest AAA games ever created. I don't want a heavy, bulky device in my hands on the go, and I don't need these features of disconnecting the controllers to have it from a distance and prop it up on a stand and stuff like that. I don't need that. So why would I keep this when I have a cheaper device over here that I actually prefer playing when I'm on the go? And that's why I'm returning the Legion Go. It's not because it's necessarily a bad device or I dislike it. I actually really like this thing. It's pretty cool. I love the screen. It's an 8.8-inch Quad HD, 144 hertz display. It's gorgeous. It looks amazing, especially if you're doing emulation. If you're playing old like PS2, PS1, Xbox, GameCube games, if you're upscaling them to the full resolution on this thing, they are breathtaking. And because of the powerhouse internally, this does have a better processor, a better GPU. I'm not going to get into all the tech mumbo jumbo here because I know a lot of people don't give a crap about that. It's just better on paper anyway, but in actual real use, I gotta say the Lenovo does have some leg ups over the Steam Deck, obviously. Again, better display, it's got the better internals, it's got better RAM. All across the board, powerhouse-wise, the Lenovo is going to win every single time. Where it falters and where this is the main reason I'm getting rid of it is in two major areas. For one, actually three, now that I think about it, three major areas. For one, the ergonomics. The Lenovo Go in the hand, it's okay. It's not terrible. I've definitely felt worse handhelds before. But in the hand, I don't necessarily like where my hands are placed most of the time. I feel like these, I call them love handles, is kind of synonymous on my channel now, but where the love handles are, when they stick out to where you grip onto, I do like that they gave a little bit of an indentation back here for your fingers to kind of rest into. I gotta hand them to that. But there's so many buttons that you're laying on that 9 times out of 10, if you're not using this in the FPS mode, which I'll get to that in a minute, or disconnecting the controllers from the base, you're pretty much constantly pressing these buttons while you're playing, and that is kind of a minor annoyance. But the biggest issue with the ergonomics is the palms on the Legion Go. So right around here are some very sharp edges. It's rounded at the corner, thankfully, but actually on the edge is pretty sharp, and they dig into your palms like crazy. I heard about this complaint when I first got it, and at first glance, I didn't notice it. I was like, what are people complaining about? This is fine. But after you play a game for like 20 minutes, you're definitely going to feel it digging into your palms, and it becomes a nuisance, and it is noticeable, very, very much so. The other big issue is the weight. It's a very heavy device at 859 grams. That's like 2 pounds almost. It's pretty heavy, especially when you compare it to the OLED Steam Deck. This thing is way lighter at 640 grams, so you do the math there. It's just, when you're using a device for a long period of time, again, this is on the go, right? Like you're gonna be in the car with this or on your sofa or at a friend's house, whatever. When you're on the go and you're holding it up like this, you're playing a game, your arms will strain pretty heavily with minimal use with the Legion Go because of its weight. I know some people are gonna laugh, be like, well, just lift some weights, bro. But trust me, most people out there, no matter how buff you are, or how much you weigh, whatever the case may be, using a device like this and holding it straight out, you're only going to be able to do this for so long before your arms start straining. And with the Lenovo Go, it definitely, it's noticeable. So that was a big issue for me, was the ergonomics in the hand, digging into my palm. I did not like the weight. It's a little bit too heavy. It does feel hefty. I mean, it's got a nice feel to it. It feels premium, like you paid some good money for it. But that only goes so far. And when you're using a handheld device on the go, it's noticeable and it's annoying. So those are the first two main reasons. The third reason is the battery life. This one, honestly, is kind of bad on every single device. The battery life has been notoriously bad on the Steam Deck, on the ROG Ally, and of course, it's no better here on the Lenovo Legion GO, sadly. You're lucky to get about 2 hours of battery life with this thing on a single charge. Yes, it does have fast charging. It charges pretty quickly if the device is powered off. If you have it powered on, at least at the moment, apparently Lenovo is working on this, and they are working on some other major updates to fix software and stuff, which is awesome. But right now, the charging isn't that fast if you have it on, especially if you're playing a game. They actually have something built in to where it will not bring in any charge. It won't let you drain the battery, thankfully, if it's plugged in, but it won't really charge the device at all if you're playing a game, and that's to help save the battery and to not overheat the device. So I do understand that to a degree, but it's still very annoying. So the battery life is just mid. It's very bad, actually. It's below mid. So yeah, 2 hours if you're lucky. And if you're playing stuff like, indie games or emulating games, you could get probably about 6 hours of gameplay on the Legion GO, which is okay, but still pretty bad. Whereas on the OLED, I want to give a little bit of disclaimer of this. On the original Steam Deck, I did not enjoy the battery life at all. I still thought it was pretty bad. You were lucky to get about 2 hours on a AAA game, and you'd roughly get about 8 hours if you were doing anything else. But now on the OLED, you can get easily 3 hours with a AAA title and around 12 hours of battery life if you're doing anything else, like just watching videos or playing indie titles or emulating. So yeah, the battery life has been improved significantly on the OLED, I can easily say that, and that's why that is a huge leg up and another reason why I'm sticking with the OLED over the Legion, because if I'm on the go, I don't want to be stuck to a wall all the time, and I get it, I totally get it. If you use these devices plugged into a dock all the time, or if this is your main PC and you have it plugged into 3 monitors, you can do that with the Legion GO, and that's why there is some amazing tech here, there's amazing hardware. And I totally get it if you love this thing. And I did love it at first too. I really did. But it's just when I'm thinking about why I would use this device or why I'm purchasing it, it doesn't fall into those categories that I really need it to for me to say this is a well-purchased device. So yeah, that being said, let's get more into the nitty-gritty of the main features of the Lenovo GO and why you should probably buy it and why this is good for most people, just not for me. So the Lenovo Legion GO starts out at $700 for a 512 gigabyte model, or for $50 more, you can get the 1 terabyte. You might as well just go with the $50. I mean, that's a huge upgrade for only $50. Most companies do a $100 upgrade for more storage, so double the storage for $50. You got to do it. And my model here was the 1 terabyte, and I got to be honest, having that terabyte of storage is really nice, especially if you're playing AAA titles on these devices, because that will fill up very, very fast. Both the Lenovo GO and the Steam Deck have expandable storage with a micro SD card. However, I want to give a little disclaimer about that as well. With the Legion GO, I don't know if the SD card reader on there is a little bit of a weaker one versus the Steam Deck, but I put the exact same games on both systems, and it actually ran better on the Steam Deck. Both running off the SD card, the micro SD cards. Now, granted, these are different micro SD cards. That could be the case. However, they're both rated the exact same write speed, same read speed, and doing tests with some, there's a program online that you can plug in your SD card to, and it does a read test and a write test and tells you the actual speed of them. Both of them gave me the exact same results. So I'm not going to assume it's the actual micro SD card that's the problem. I think it's the system, because I've also heard other people saying the same thing, that the Legion GO, for some reason, with the SD card, if you have any games on it, unless it's emulated titles, like if you put PS1, PS2, Nintendo 64, stuff like that, if you put those games on it, they should run just fine. But if you're putting actual Steam games on there, or Epic games, stuff like that, newer titles, you're definitely going to see some performance dips, incredibly bad actually. On the Legion GO, I was seeing some really bad performance versus the Steam Deck. It's just really weird, but that is something to consider. If you do want to upgrade your storage, if you're getting the Legion GO, you're probably going to have to open it up and actually exchange the SSD internally to actually get more storage than to just rely on the micro SD card. Where on the Steam Deck, I don't have to say that, because I've played AAA games on the micro SD card and they ran pretty good. They are worse than putting it on the internal SSD, I will say that, but they are playable. Whereas on the Legion GO, I can't say the same. Like I stated already, the Legion Go has a way better screen, 8.8-inch Quad HD, 2560 by 1600 resolution. It is an IPS display versus the OLED on the Steam Deck, so yes, the OLED technically is a better display in terms of color accuracy, but the resolution is a lot lower. On the Steam Deck, you have an 800p resolution, basically like a 1280 by 720. If you think of it that way, it's a little bit better resolution than that. And it has a peak brightness of 1000 nits on the OLED, whereas it's a peak brightness of 500 nits on the Legion Go. So in direct sunlight, you're gonna get a little bit better visibility on the Steam Deck, if that matters to you. For me, it hasn't been a problem on either device, so I'm not gonna say one is better than the other. But the biggest thing is that the Steam Deck OLED now has a 90 Hz refresh rate, which is above and beyond better than the 60 Hz of the original. However, it's still sick and fiddle to the Lenovo's 144 Hz display. I can't show you on camera, sadly, the differences between the Hertz on both devices because the cameras are only going to be able to pick up 60 Hz basically, even if you're showing more than that. But in person, the smoothness of the picture on the Lenovo Go, it is unmatched compared to anything else I've ever tested by far. Every image is gorgeous, smooth, accurate. I can't explain it enough how much I love the display on the Lenovo Legion Go. However, when you're using it at its full resolution, if you're doing any type of gaming, you are just doing yourself a disservice and screwing over the performance. I play almost every game at 1080p, and sometimes I even lower it down to 800p on the Lenovo Legion Go, but most games can run just fine at 1080p, and they look gorgeous. Again, I think the screen war, if you're looking at the OLED versus the Legion Go, I would have to easily give it to the Legion because of its size, its resolution, and the 144 Hz. All that together makes an amazing experience. Now, I know people have complained about there's no VRR on the Legion Go, but there also isn't any of that on the Steam Deck either, and both of them are technically portrait displays that have just been manipulated with the software to run at widescreen native. And that can run into some issues with certain games launching and stuff like that. However, Steam Deck takes the cake there because their software is just insanely good, and you would never know that there's no VRR, and you would never know that it's a portrait device. However, with the Legion Go, sadly, you do run into some issues here and there with certain games and applications trying to open in portrait or just straight up not opening at all because of the resolution of the display. So you might run into some issues there. I know Lenovo is working on this. This will be kinked out and fixed in the future with updates. It's just right now, it is a bummer and it is an annoyance. I've already stated about the internals being better on the Lenovo, and that is definitely the truth. The processor is better, the GPU is a little better than the Steam Deck's. The RAM is actually the exact same in terms of 16 gigabytes, but on the Lenovo it's a little bit faster at 7,500 megahertz, whereas the Steam Deck OLED has 6,400 megahertz. So normally I would say take that with a grain of salt. On paper, it might sound better than actual practice, but I gotta say, in actual practice, games just run better on the Legion Go. Better performance across the board, better FPS, you name it, they just run better. But I can't say I'm not impressed by the Steam Deck OLED's performance for what it is, and what's internally is so much weaker than the Legion Go. The fact that certain games can still run at 80, 90 FPS is still remarkable to me, even if it is on a smaller display at running at a lower resolution. But for me personally, again, every single game I've ever tested on both devices run as good as they need to, so I don't see a big difference between them in that situation. But if you are just a numbers guy, you look at one over the other, you're going to say Legion is definitely getting better FPS. That one wins. I want that one. That's totally fine. But for me, it doesn't really matter. When it comes to connectivity, there actually is a little bit of a difference here, but only in the Bluetooth. So on the Legion Go, they actually came with a 5.1 Bluetooth receiver, whereas the OLED, you get a 5.3 connection. So in actual practice, it's not much of a difference. You are going to get a little bit better connectivity and range with the OLED versus the Legion Go. However, in terms of like quality and latency and stuff like that, I haven't noticed much of a difference. Every single game sounds fine through wireless headphones on either device. You're not going to have much of an issue. But I will say there has been some reports with the Legion Go disconnecting quite often with Bluetooth devices, and I did have a couple instances myself where it disconnected at random times. So your mileage may vary there, and again, it can be fixed with updates, but just for right now, I'm going to have to give it to the OLED for having better Bluetooth connectivity. The wireless chip in both devices is actually the exact same. It's a Wi-Fi 6E chip, so pretty fast across the board for downloading games to your system or looking at videos, streaming, and stuff like that. You're not going to have any issues whichever device you go with. Another big leg up for the Legion Go is that it has two USB-C 4.0 ports. So with these two USB-C ports, you can do a whole lot of things with them. You can plug in multiple docking stations to them. You can plug in multiple displays to them. You can charge the device while also connecting a hub. There's so many different alternatives you can do with having two different USB ports. I also like the idea that if you're holding it, you're on the go and you want to charge it, you have an option, either have the cable dangling up above, or if you have a shorter cable, you can have it down below and use it on a kickstand or whatever you want to do. I like having two USB ports. That's just a nice thing to have. And I hope that with the Steam Deck 2, we do get two USB ports. That'd be awesome. But at the moment, the Steam Deck OLED only has one USB. So if that is important to you, and again, if you're going to be using this as like a home base computer, if you're going to be using it as a desktop situation, the Legion Go is definitely going to be your pick over the Steam Deck OLED. Now let's get into the build quality of both devices, which one feels better in the hand, which one looks better, all the above. I gotta hand it just instantly to the Legion Go. Like, the build quality feels amazing on this guy. Even though it is heavier, it's more hefty, I'm not a fan of that. I gotta say that this is a gorgeous looking device. It's probably the best looking one on the market at the moment. Even though it is all plastic, it does feel like metal almost. It's really hard to explain. It's just a more high quality plastic than when we get on the OLED Steam Deck. Now, I will say the reason I still would probably pick the OLED over the Legion Go is just because of the weight and the ergonomics, obviously, that I talked about earlier. But it's also just because even though it does feel like cheaper plastics, I can let that go in terms of a better weight distribution for more comfortable handling. But again, if we're just looking straight at the facts of the build quality and the buttons themselves and the quality of the triggers and everything, the Legion Go easily takes the cake. And talking about triggers, man, I'm really going to miss these triggers on the Lenovo because I don't know what they did here. I don't know if it's just the curvature of them or maybe it's just how much you have at your disposal, like how much travel there is. But these feel amazing for racing games. Not so much for like first-person shooters or anything like that. I actually would prefer less travel with those kind of games. But for racing games, you cannot beat the triggers on the Legion Go. They are so damn cool and very good, and they feel really amazing. One area, though, where I will say the Legion Go falls off easily is the D-pad. It has absolutely no travel to it. It's a very tactile click, which sometimes can be satisfactory, but not with the D-pad. I still much prefer the D-pad on the OLED, the more mushier one. Even though I don't love it, it's still better than the one we have here on the Legion Go. So if you're into games that use a lot of the D-pad, like fighting games and stuff like that, I don't know, man. The Legion Go might not be the one for you just because the D-pad alone is pretty terrible. Another thing I should talk about with the Lenovo Go is the placement of some of the buttons is kind of interesting. So both devices have two of their own proprietary buttons that mess with the software built into the devices. On the OLED, we have the Steam button on the left side, and then we have a menu button on the right side. Both these open up different menus or depending on what you're doing, which is really handy and nice when you're playing your games. And Lenovo tried to do the same thing, but their software just isn't anywhere near what Steam's is right now, sadly. So what they originally came out with is the left button up here, which is normally where you'd see the select button. This actually would open up the Legion Go software or switch between your most recent apps. So you have a game running, for instance, you click the button, it would bring you to the Legion home screen. You click it again, it would bring you to your desktop. You click it again, it would bring you to the game. And you'd cycle through all of them pretty instantaneously. And then on the right side, which again, this is where normally the start button should be, but instead it's their quick access menu. This has thankfully been fixed since when it first launched. So I'm not even going to get into that. There's no reason to because it is fixed. So what this does is you click the button and it opens up a side panel menu just like on the Steam Deck to go through your quick settings, to change your brightness, and change any of those settings you would like to make the gaming experience more fluid and a little bit easier without having to jump out of your game to go into like Windows settings or anything. And I do like that. And I think that one works pretty nicely nowadays. When it first came out, it did have some issues with a little bit of lag in here and there, not popping up over certain titles, but I haven't had that issue since the update, so Lenovo, awesome with that. But again, it's just really awkward having these buttons at the top left and right of your display because I don't know about you guys, but for me, intuitively, all throughout my life with every controller, start and select have been at the top left and right of every controller, so it's really made my mind boggled every time I try to press them because I think it's start and select and they end up not being that. Because the start and select is actually down here below the D-pad now, right above each other. I think they could have even maybe fixed this a little more by having the start over on this side at the bottom. Just moving them both to the bottom. I think that would have fixed it, but having them both on one controller on one side, I don't know, it kind of ruins the experience a little bit for me. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just weird. Just kind of a weird annoyance. Also talking about the trackpad on the Legion Go, I like that they included a trackpad. I'm not going to complain about it too much because it's cool having one, especially on the desktop mode, to have a little bit more accurate movement and having to use the touchscreen or using the analogs if you're using the Steam controls, stuff like that, which you can do. But it's a nice little trackpad, nothing to write home about. There's no haptics with it though. There's no like any movement underneath it like you get with the OLED. And the OLED comes with 2 trackpads. Now I know it's kind of overkill, but it is very nice for certain situations like typing on the keyboard and stuff like that. Using those 2 trackpads is very intuitive. They feel amazing with the added haptics behind them. Yeah, the trackpads easily are a win for the OLED, but I still got to hand it to Lenovo for at least including one on this device, which they easily could have just removed entirely. All the rest of the buttons feel really good and tactile. I don't really have any complaints or anything like that. They don't stick out as amazing or anything, but they get the job done. And the analogs I actually have to give to the Lenovo over the Steam Deck because they have Hall effect in them, which means they will hopefully last a little bit longer in their lifespan with no stick drift and stuff like that you will get with the OLED over time. So the analogs are really, really good. The one thing I will say though about the analogs is they're a little bit small for my hands. I wish they were a little bit larger, but overall they have really good grip to them. They have a nice concave feel to them so you can fit your thumb in them and they don't have too much issue there. And the OLED, by the way, are a little bit better than the original LCD Steam Deck. Those analogs are just as good as well when it comes to grip. But yeah, all around, I gotta give the leg up to the Legion Go for the Hall effect. And you get these cool little RGB effects around them, which is just like really cool. I can't really deny that. Also, this is kind of underrated, but I really like the placement of the exhaust and intake fans on the Legion Go. So the exhaust is at the top, just like on the OLED or really every other handheld gaming system, but the intake is at the top of the device in the back. The nice thing about that is if you are propping it up on a table or on a blanket or I don't know, on a pillow or something, you don't have to run the risk of blocking those vents and overheating your device. Because I've actually had that happen to me on the Steam Deck, not the OLED thankfully, but on the original Steam Deck, because the vents are in the back on the bottom, I've run into issues where I've laid it on a blanket and I've covered them up without noticing it. My fans were revving like crazy and I just thought it was a game I was playing and the system ended up turning itself off to save itself from overheating. So that is a huge leg up for the Lenovo. I gotta hand them to their design team for how they put this thing together. It's still remarkable to me for how much stuff they put into it. So yeah, the Legion Go is awesome in terms of its internals and its cooling. But also, since we're talking about the exhaust and the vents, let's talk about the loudness or how loud the vents are when you're running games and stuff like that. And I gotta say, Legion Go is not a quiet device. It's very loud, actually. Compared to the OLED, which is pretty quiet, I've been remarkably impressed by how quiet the OLED is, even playing AAA titles. So easily, in terms of quietness, if you're trying to be incognito to people around you, the OLED, the Steam Deck is going to beat this one any time of the day because no matter what you're doing on the Legion Go, unless you're just sitting at the desktop like I am, the exhaust fans are very, very loud. I'm going to do a quick little test here to show you guys side by side how they sound, and you can be the judge of which one you like better. Now the biggest feature for the Lenovo Go, and this has been their big marketing scheme of like why you should buy this over any other handheld, and I gotta admit, it's insanely cool. Is it practical? Kind of. And it really comes down again to like who you are as a person and what you're gonna be doing with your device. But is it cool and is it something that really turns heads and you can show off to your friends? Hell yeah. So what this thing could do that no other handheld gaming PC can do right now is you can press a button just like the Nintendo Switch and take off the controllers. They can separate from the device and you can use these wirelessly from wherever you are. So you can take off both of them. And now essentially you just have a handheld gaming tablet. And I've seen people legitimately turn this into a tablet where they use it portrait and they're scrolling through Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff and watching videos. And yeah, that is pretty cool. You can do that. And it does have a built-in kickstand, which is another big leg up for the Lenovo that the Steam Deck does not have, which I really wish they would, but sadly not the case here. But the fact that you have the kickstand makes sense because you can prop this up on a table and then you can hold both of your controllers in hand and you can play it like this from a distance. And it feels really good to play it like this, I'm not gonna lie. They put obviously a lot of work into the ergonomics of these controllers to make them feel good in the hand and just to make sense to be able to remove them and play games like this. However, the amount of times I've actually done this without doing it for a video, I should say, is like 1 or 2 times. I barely ever think to remove these on this device. Again, I like to use this on the go, and when I have it in my hands, I just want to turn it on and play a game. I don't think to prop it up and take these off. Again, that's a me thing though. I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but if you can see yourself as somebody who, even with your Nintendo Switch, if you have one of those, if you usually take the Joy-Cons off and you prop it up on a table and you play it that way, you're going to feel right at home with the Legion Go. The other big thing, and this is where my mind was extremely blown when I first saw this on a YouTube video, the other thing and the biggest feature of the Legion Go, other than the controllers disconnecting, is on the right controller. Nothing changes with the left, so we're going to put that down. On the right controller, you can flip a little switch on the bottom called FPS mode. What that does is it turns this into a mouse, a literal mouse, like mouse and keyboard. So you flip the switch, you prop it up on your table, and now you're using it as a vertical mouse, and you can scroll around like this, and you can literally play first-person shooters on the go for the first time ever without having to carry a bulky keyboard and a bulky mouse with you. And it works. It really does. Is it perfect, and does it technically replace a gaming mouse? No, I'm not going to say that it will or that it does. Yes, you can get used to these controls, and you probably could become a pro with it. I mean, the accuracy of the sensor itself is pretty damn good. I mean, I was able to shoot some easy targets in Valorant and stuff like that without much of an issue after I got used to the controls. But I think the biggest issue is the ergonomics of this controller and the controls themselves. So the way you hold it in your palm is you're putting your palm over the joystick here, which you can actually remove these. You can pop this off. So they did think about this. So you can remove the joystick, and then you're putting your palm again over all the buttons and stuff like that. You're wrapping your palm also around the prongs, which connect into the system itself. I've heard some people complain about wondering if these prongs will corrode over time from hand sweat and stuff like that, which is a concern that makes sense. So who knows? These might corrode over time, or maybe they thought about that and put some type of special plating over it. I don't know. But the other issue is how many buttons are just on one controller. I mean, you have the mouse 3 and 4 buttons right here side by side. So essentially you're supposed to use your thumb to press both these buttons, which is kind of weird. And then they have a scroll wheel right above that, a full use scroll wheel, which is insane, but it does work. I mean, it's cool that they included that, but I honestly forget about it all the time until I'm accidentally touching. I'm like, oh wait, there's a scroll wheel there. And then of course you have the trigger, which is now via your thumb, which just feels very awkward to me. Feels like you're pressing a detonator device. And then you have your mouse 1 and 2 buttons. So these are your left click and right click, of course. But I don't know, it's still super cool to me. I can't dog on it too much just because of the innovation. It's a first run as well. It's their first time doing this. I'm sure if they do make a Lenovo Legion 2, yeah, this will be much better and I'll probably buy it immediately. But for me, I just couldn't get into the ergonomics of this. I could not wrap my brain around remembering all the controls and where all the buttons were and stuff. So I personally would not play this for competitive shooters. You might run some Call of Duty matches with it and have some fun, but it feels more like a gimmick to me at the moment than it does an actual feature. I know that might offend some people, especially if you do use it in FPS mode all the time. Good for you. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. But for me, it felt more like a gimmick than an actual feature that I would personally use on the go. The other thing too is it does feel a little bit like cringy is like the best way to describe it, putting these back in, because I feel like I'm breaking the system every time because it doesn't have a nice locking sliding system like on the Nintendo Switch. And I think it's because they have a patent on that, so it makes sense. But Lenovo did their best here, and essentially they just click into place. You'll feel it click, or you'll hear it click audibly, and then they're in place and they're back. They do wiggle a little bit. There is a little bit of flex if you're really trying to, but to be honest, in normal usage when I'm playing games, I don't notice it flexing, and I don't think it's really going to ever be an issue or it'll break off. but that could be a possibility. I mean, with more moving parts like that, you're going to run risks of hardware failure. But yeah, I think all around, I got to give it to Lenovo, though, for those extra features, and the FPS mode is insanely cool. It's just how practical is it, and would I spend the extra money to go with this over the Steam Deck just for the FPS mode? And for me, no, I would not. But again, everybody's different. The next thing is probably the biggest thing that I've heard from people talking about, like which systems do they go with over the Steam Deck or the Legion, is the software. I mean, you're running Windows right out of the gate, Windows 11 versus Steam's OS is on Linux. And there is a big difference between Linux and Windows. I'm not going to get into that for this video. We're already like hitting 40 minutes. I don't want to be a 2-hour long video. So the biggest thing for Windows devices versus a Linux is that Windows-based games, that especially ones that have anti-cheats built in, like Valorant, Call of Duty, Destiny 2, just to name a few off the top of my head, those games will not launch. I don't think they ever will on the Steam Deck because of the anti-cheat needs Windows to install as a separate program. So that is a big bummer. I mean, if there is certain games out there that you want to play on the go and you really can't go without those titles, the Legion is going to be your only bet. Same with the ROG Ally or really any other Windows tablet or Windows gaming PC. So we will not get that on the Steam Deck, sadly, because of its Linux nature. Of course, that can change in the future. I hope it does, that Linux continues to evolve. And Valve's software, by far, is the best thing I've ever seen on a gaming handheld PC. Coming back to my original statement at the beginning of the video, if you want a gaming handheld console that is a gaming PC, but it feels more like a console, the Steam Deck is by far your best choice. This is the easiest thing to boot up, log into an account, play a game that I've ever seen in terms of PC gaming. It's a remarkable what Valve has done with their software, and I have to give the software leg up to them, of course. But that being said, Lenovo is newer. The Steam Deck was not perfect when it first launched either, and their software will only get better with time, so I'm not going to rag on them too much. But at the moment, their software is very limited. When you boot up the system, it goes through Windows software setup, not Lenovo, so it just feels like a laptop for the first time, which is a big turnoff for a lot of people, including myself. You get to the desktop and it just looks like a Windows PC. There's nothing here that's screaming this is a Lenovo device or this is a handheld gaming PC. This is just a PC. So that right there is a big thing of like, do you want a handheld gaming PC that can do everything a PC can, which is awesome, or do you want a handheld gaming console that can run every PC game that I'd ever want? That would be the OLED for you. So it just comes down to personal preference. I like the ability of Windows right off the rip that I can install like Photoshop on and everything I could ever think of without really any tinkering or messing around with. But on the other side, I also like the simplicity and linearness of Valve software with the Steam Deck of just booting it up. You have everything right at your disposal, all your games ready to go, install a game and boom, there you are. And then if you want more than that, you do have a full-blown desktop mode on the Steam Deck that you can install a web browser, Discord, Spotify, all that stuff that you can do on this as well. So it just comes down to personal preference and what you're going to be doing with it. I think the biggest thing is just the Windows games. So if you need a Windows operating system specifically for those games that you want to play, then you're going to have to go with a Windows device over a Linux-based device like the Steam Deck. And I talked about this earlier, so I'm not even going to get into the performance. There's really no reason to do a side-by-side because the Legion GO is going to win every time when it comes to gaming performance. I've already said that. It's got stronger hardware. So the big question for you, as if you should buy the Legion GO over a Steam Deck, is if it's raw performance you're looking for, the best FPS you can get on a handheld system, just all across the board better performance for AAA titles, the Legion GO is the better pick, bar none. If you don't mind the other issues that I talked about already with the Legion GO, and it's just performance you're looking for with a gorgeous display, the Legion GO wins every time. This is the device for you. And the last little thing I'll get into is the speakers. So this is kind of something I didn't expect to really complain about or have an issue with when it came to a handheld gaming system. But after being very spoiled by the Steam Deck speakers, which now are even better, by the way, on the OLED, coming to the Legion GO, they stick out like a sore thumb as being pretty bad. They're not like horrible. I mean, they'll get the job done, especially if you don't have a Steam Deck or anything else to compare it to. But the fact that they're top firing, they're at the top and they go up, not at your face. The sound quality in general is pretty just mid. They get loud, I will give it that, but it's not very bassy. It's more tinny sounding, a little bit more hollow, but they get the job done. I mean, if you're not using a headset, which you can do, I mean, it has Bluetooth connectivity, it has a headphone jack, You can use headsets if you want, but if you're not someone to use a headset on a gaming handheld like this, like I don't, you're going to have a much better experience with any other handheld out there than on the Legion Go when it comes to its speakers. So let's do a test real quick. You guys be the judge of it. My mic isn't the best for this test, but hopefully you can get an idea of the difference in sound quality. So yeah, I think we went over every single thing I wanted to in this video of my personal reasons why I prefer the OLED Steam Deck over the Legion Go. And it's for those three main reasons that I stated at the beginning. The battery life, the ergonomics, and the weight are the three biggest things for me with a portable handheld system. And I guess if I was to add a fourth reason, would be the software. So I know the software will be fixed with the Legion Go in time. I believe in Lenovo. I think they're going to do great, and I hope they continue making these systems and maybe even make a Legion Go 2. That'd be awesome. But for right now, the software just is so much better on the Steam Deck. It's so much more fluid. I boot up the system, I press a game, and I'm in the game ready to go within seconds. It just feels like a gaming console on the go. Where the Legion Go just, for me, feels like, why didn't I just buy a bigger gaming laptop? Because it's literally a handheld gaming laptop just in the form factor of a gaming console. So that's when it comes down to the big question of which one's better for you. Right there is your answer. Do you want a portable gaming console, or do you want a portable gaming PC laptop that feels like a gaming console because of its controls? It's kind of convoluted to think about, but that essentially is it. I mean, Lenovo Legion Go is an amazing system. I'm not trying to make this video to say don't buy it or stay away from it or it's horrible. They need to fix it. It's broken. But I am returning it, and it's only because I have the luxury of having the OLED with me here, trying them side by side, seeing which one I liked more, and it just turns out that I prefer the OLED Steam Deck over the Legion Go for those reasons I stated before. So with that, let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the Legion Go. Did you purchase it? Are you a fan, or are you looking at getting one? Or are you a Steam Deck fanboy? Are you sticking with your Steam Deck and you were thinking about getting a Legion Go until this video? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section below. Let's keep it civil. Let's not throw out hearsay. Let's not try to fight with each other. We're all friends here. We're all just really excited and happy to see so much competitiveness in the handheld gaming market. Let's have it continue to grow, and hopefully more companies will come out of the woodwork making their own designs and doing more innovations like Lenovo has here, and we can make more fun videos like this. So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, share, support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.